Dark. Intimidating. Absolute. The Empress Zyra stood tall on her throne, carved from the crystallized remains of dying stars. A being of flawless control, her presence alone could crush civilizations. Yet, at this moment, her expression barely concealed something far more troubling than war: mild confusion. Before her, shackled and defiant, stood Jack Carter. A human. A pathetic, primitive, biologically inefficient human. And yet, Zyra's golden eyes narrowed as she studied him, her voice sharp. "Do you understand your position, human?" Jack smirked. "Oh, crystal clear. I'm in chains, standing in front of a 7-foot-tall space goddess who looks 2 seconds away from vaporizing me. Gotta say, you make getting captured almost worth it." A faint murmur rippled through the court. No one spoke to the Empress this way and lived. Zyra's gaze didn't waver. "You were trespassing in my domain." "Right." Jack rolled his shoulders, as much as his restraints allowed. "Minor navigational hiccup. Turns out, dodging bounty hunters in an asteroid field while hungover? Not my best idea." Zyra's fingers curled against the armrest. A human. Unimpressed by her. Ridiculous. She stepped forward, a motion that made the entire court tense. A single flick of her hand could have ended his existence. Instead, she leaned in slightly, voice smooth as molten gold. "You are nothing, human. Your species is fragile. Weak." Her lips barely parted as she whispered the next words, calculated for maximum psychological devastation. "You are beneath me." Jack tilted his head, grinning. "I mean, depends on the situation, but I don't hate the idea." A long, deadly silence filled the chamber. One of Zyra's advisors turned a deep shade of blue. A guard choked on air. "Zyra?" She didn't react. Not visibly. But deep inside her immortal, untouchable form, something shifted. An unfamiliar prickle crawled up her spine. It was absurd. It was impossible. She had never felt a sensation so small, so insignificant, and yet she knew, without question, that she had shivered. Unacceptable. She straightened, her expression unreadable, fingers flexing as if recalibrating reality itself. "Take him to the labs. I want him examined." Jack arched a brow. "I'm flattered, Princess, but usually a guy gets dinner first." Zyra turned sharply, her robes billowing behind her as she stormed out. The heavy doors slammed shut with a force that shook the walls. Her warriors exchanged nervous glances. One of them leaned toward the other, whispering, "Did the human just make the Empress leave first?" The other gulped. "We're all going to die." Jack sat strapped to a hovering examination table, his shirt removed, sensors placed across his skin. A team of alien scientists monitored glowing screens, inputting calculations like they were unraveling the mysteries of the universe. He smirked. "So, is this the part where I get superpowers, or are we skipping straight to the probing?" The lead scientist, a four-eyed, four-armed being, blinked. "There will be no penetration." The doors slammed open. Zyra strode in, towering and composed, but Jack caught the way her jaw tightened. She'd felt it. That shiver. And she had no clue why. "Report," she commanded. The scientist hesitated. "The human is normal." Her gaze sharpened. "That is not an answer. No anomalies, no genetic irregularities. His temperature is standard, his biological processes are unremarkable." A pause. "And yet you reacted." Zyra's fingers twitched before she crossed her arms, voice cool. "That reaction was irrelevant." Jack snorted. "I dunno, Princess. Looked pretty relevant to me." Zyra ignored him. "Run another test. Increase variables." The scientist adjusted a control panel. A surge of warmth spread through the restraints, simulating various atmospheric shifts. Zyra stood perfectly still, watching Jack's every reaction. He flexed, stretching against the restraints with a lazy grin. "You sure this isn't just a really weird date?" Zyra's expression remained unreadable. "Your heart rate is elevated." Jack smirked. "Hard not to be, Considering the company. Something flickered behind her golden eyes, but she dismissed it. Proceed. The next test, skin contact. Zyra hesitated only a second before stepping forward, placing her palm against his chest. A single beat of silence. Then, her body reacted. Instantly. A sharp jolt, a surge of something foreign shot through her spine. Her fingers twitched. Jack's grin widened. Well, would you look at that? Zyra pulled back as if burned. Her breathing was controlled. Too controlled. The scientist, meanwhile, looked horrified. Empress, that was a measurable response. Jack tilted his head. So, what's the verdict? Am I a galactic anomaly, or do you just like me? Zyra's voice was like steel. This is science. Jack's smirk deepened. Whatever helps you sleep at night, sweetheart. Her hands clenched. This human was infuriating. Worse? He was right. Zyra stood in front of the mirror inside her private chambers, her reflection as cold and regal as ever. Yet beneath the surface, something was wrong. She flexed her fingers, recalling the sensation, that humans touch, the way her body had betrayed her, reacting to something so insignificant. Unacceptable. A chime echoed through the chamber. Enter. The doors slid open, and Jack strolled in, arms untied, unbothered, smirking. Zyra narrowed her eyes. You were not granted freedom. He shrugged. Your guards are terrible at stopping a guy with good reflexes. He tilted his head, watching her too closely. You look tense. Maybe you need another experiment? Her jaw tightened. I require answers. Jack's smirk widened. Funny. So do I. She stepped forward, stopping just inches from him. Then let us test a theory. Before he could respond, she grabbed his wrist and pressed his palm flat against her collarbone. Nothing. Jack arched a brow. That's what you wanted? To hold hands? Zyra exhaled slowly, controlling her disappointment. Jack's finger moved, just slightly. A lazy brush of his thumb along her skin. Her spine tensed. A pulse of something deep and electric raced through her. Her hand jerked away. Jack laughed. Oh, this is killing you, isn't it? She glared. This is a biological anomaly. Jack took a slow step closer. You sure about that, princess? Her breath was steady, but her body was not. Jack leaned in slightly, voice dropping lower. You can run all the tests you want. We both know what this is. Her pulse thrummed in her ears. Impossible. Humans were weak. Forgettable. And yet, this one was not. She turned sharply, putting distance between them. Enough. Jack crossed his arms. Afraid of what happens if we test a little further. Zyra forced herself to remain indifferent. Afraid? No. Uninterested. Jack let out a slow, knowing exhale. Princess, you shivered again. She froze. Jack grinned. And you liked it? Her fists clenched. She wanted to deny it. Wanted to command the truth into something else. But she couldn't. Because he was right. Zyra's breath was slow, measured, but the tension coiled beneath her skin refused to settle. No amount of logic could erase what had happened, what kept happening. Every interaction with this human unraveled her, and worse, he knew it. Jack leaned casually against the chamber wall, watching her with that infuriating smirk. So, what's next? You gonna exile me? Execute me? Or are we finally admitting you enjoy our little experiments? Her fists clenched at her sides. I enjoy nothing. Jack let out a slow chuckle, stepping forward. Princess, you could have had me tossed into a black hole by now. But you keep bringing me back. She didn't flinch. For research. Jack tilted his head. Yeah? Then let's run one final test. Her brow lifted, skeptical. What test? His hand brushed against her hip. Deliberate. A slow, measured touch. Warmer than any star. A sharp, uncontrollable shiver coursed through her. Again. Jack smirked. That. Her pulse spiked. No one touched her. No one would dare. Yet here he was, this human, this infuriating creature, smug and unbreakable. She should have stepped back. Should have ended this. But she didn't. Jack's voice dropped lower, teasing. One last experiment, princess. Purely scientific. She knew exactly what he meant. Knew the outcome. And for once, she didn't fight it. Her lips met his. The moment they touched, her entire system overloaded. A shock, not of pain, but something worse. Something she had no word for, no defense against. A full-body shiver wrecked her. Jack pulled back slightly, his grin lazy. Guess that confirms it. Her breathing was too even. Too forced. She had conquered empires, bent galaxies to her will. Yet this human had done something far more dangerous. He had made her feel. Zyra exhaled slowly, gaze locked onto him. This conversation never happened. Jack chuckled, hands sliding into his pockets. Sure thing, princess. He turned to leave. Paused. Unless you want to run that test again? Her silence stretched, then, barely audible, almost dangerous asterisk. Lock the doors. Jack's grin widened. Now we're getting somewhere.